So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar for filing for unemployment in the entertainment industry. I'm going to kick off our president. I'm Hugo Romero, political coordinator with the LA County Federation of Labor. Been working with your unions on this webinar. I'm going to pass it off to Tom Davis, who will kick off the program.
Thank you, Hugo. I really appreciate the opportunity to address you and everybody else this morning. But I also want to, most important, I want to thank Ron Herrera, the president of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor. You know, it's times like these that really test a person's leadership skills. And Ron, I want to thank you for the leadership that you've shown all of us in the labor movement here in Los Angeles County. From sponsoring forums such as this to feeding literally tens of thousands of people through the activization of the food bank through community services. What you've been able to do through the County Federation of Labor has been a testament to the labor movement here in Los Angeles County. And for myself, the members of my local, as well as the members of the UC and the CIC, I want to thank you. Back to you, Hugo.
Thank you, Tom. And now to the president of the LA County Federation of Labor, President Ron Herrera.
Thank you, Hugo. I just wanted to welcome everybody to this webinar. There's a lot of unsung heroes, Brother Hugo being one of them, and Sister Scarlett Ying, the other, who put all these things together. Who would have ever thought that we would be, doing this to communicate with each other? But I understand there's a couple of thousand people on today, and I believe there was 6,000 people that registered. So on behalf of the 800,000 members in the LA County Federation of Labor, it's 300 affiliates. I want to welcome all the entertainment affiliates here to this webinar. I think it's vitally important that we do this. We have to also thank Labor Community Services, as well as our presenters today, Ken Gomez and Brandy DeArt from the EDD. This is our third webinar, and we're going to continue to do these weekly on different subjects. We want to talk about healthcare, housing, and obviously, the food inequity and food access. I know that we've done a food bank for the entertainment, our entertainment unions at the IATSE headquarters, and I believe we have another one scheduled. So I want you all to take advantage of that. These are tough times, and our theme is, union members helping union members, and we want to continue that theme. It's why we're doing these things today. One of the things that I want to talk to you about is we're going to continue to be doing food drives. We have 3 food drives scheduled for this week, another 3 or 4 the following week. We're scheduled out about 2.5 weeks, and we'll be doing them all over the county. So it's just not going to be focused on one area or downtown LA. You'll see them. We have one in South LA, one in the South Bay, and one out towards the IE in the San Gabriel Valley. So we'll be getting those out everywhere. But I wanted to let you know that these food banks obviously have been helping a lot of people. Friday, we actually fed 7,268 cars went by us to equal about 29,000 people fed. It's incredible the work that Labor Community Services has been doing through its director, Armando Olivas. And after 3 weeks of our food banks, we've reached a plateau of 100,000 people fed in LA County. So it's just a testament of the leadership of the executive board at the Federation, as well as Tom Davis, who sits on the board. But I wanted to just welcome everybody, let everybody know that we're in this fight together. The Federation will continue putting out resource for its affiliates and its members, and we'll get through this thing together. And our theme is one day longer, one day stronger. So thank you all for getting on. Hugo?
Thanks, Ron. And now to introduce the fourth International Vice President of IATSE, Mike Miller.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mike Miller, International Vice President with the IA. And on behalf of the California IA locals and the other entertainment industry unions, Laborers 724, Teamsters 399, SAG-AFTRA, and the DGA, all of whom joined with our host, the LA County Federation of Labor, to make this webinar possible. I want to welcome all of you. As Ron said, there are over 6,000 registrants for this webinar this morning. I know many of you signed up for last week's webinar and were frustrated and concerned when it was postponed. So we're really glad that we're able to reschedule it so quickly and provide it to you today. I want to reiterate the thanks to the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor and President Ron Herrera. This wouldn't be possible without their willingness to host the webinar. Especially would like to call out Ken Gomez and Brandy Diarte from the EDD, who along with their colleagues at the agency have been working 24/7 to try to get answers and unemployment benefits to all the working people of California. Over the last 15 months, the Entertainment Union Coalition's developed a strong working relationship with the EDD. They've proven to be incredibly helpful in addressing issues we have brought to their attention. Of course, none of us could have predicted this crisis and the incredible effort that would be required of the EDD when millions of California residents suddenly need to apply for UI benefits at the same time. Because of this relationship, we can say with certainty that they understand our industry has unique work patterns, which means we have unique issues and questions. And it's for that very reason that the EDD asked us to put together a list of questions that we've been hearing from members across the industry that we ourselves couldn't answer. And we did that. This webinar is designed to answer those questions. We believe that we'll all learn a lot, and what remains unclear, we'll work with the County Fed and the EDD to address. Before I turn it back over to Hugo, I just want to reiterate what President Herrera said earlier regarding food banks and assistance. If you need help, your unions, the County Fed and the IA and all of your respective unions are here for you. But if you can provide help, if you can donate to food banks, if you can do things to help your union brothers and sisters, that's also appreciated. So I hope all of you can stay safe. I hope all of you and your families are healthy, and we will indeed get through this together. So Hugo, you want to kick us off?
Yes, thank you, Mike. So again, name's Hugo Romero with the LA County Federation of Labor. I just wanted to reiterate all the props that have been given to our president, Ron Herrera, who when this crisis started, he gave us a directive as staff to support in any way possible our 800,000 affiliates. And this is what we've been doing, and we are here to support, and we're committed to continue that support. And I want to give a shout out to Scarlett Ying, who's also on the webinar, who's been supporting with this as well, this venture of helping folks out with webinars and helping bring this together. So in terms of process, we're going to kick it off to Ken Gomez and Brandy, who will take us through the presentation. But just in terms of process that I think will help us all get through the webinar, you notice there's a chat section. If you have questions throughout the chat, our recommendation is that you only ask questions that are specific to the slide at hand or the topic at hand or something that's been questioned previously. Brandy will do her best from EDD to answer questions that are general. She may not be able to answer specific questions due to privacy and confidentiality purposes to the broad public. That's a mandate. So the reason we want to keep it to specific slides is because there's a very likely chance that your questions will be answered in the FAQ portion or at different parts of the presentation. If we flood the chat section, then questions that are specific to the slide at hand may not be answered because the stuff is flooded. So we want to keep it to the slide at hand. If by the end of the entire presentation, your question was not addressed, you have further questions, please include them in the chat section. We will then compile them, hand them off, and pass them on to EDD to answer them. And the reason we want to keep them to FAQs is because everybody has very specific ones. As folks have mentioned, EDD right now is overwhelmed with calls, the waits are long. And that's likely because 90% of questions that are FAQs, people are calling EDD. So our strategy is to answer most of them now, FAQ, and that way for the very specific individualized ones that are not necessarily FAQ, space will free up on the EDD platform for them to be able to give you very specific answers if you have them, if we're able to free up 90% of space with FAQs. So thank you for your patience. And again, please ask questions in the chat that are specific to the slide or previous. If by the end of it, it still hasn't been addressed, please type them out and we promise to send them to EDD and try to get those answers to you. So without further ado, I do want to pass it off to Ken Gomez.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Ugo, and everyone for the nice, warm welcome here. I'd like to start by thanking the LA County Federation of Labor for organizing this event. It's very important for us to be able to share this amount of time with you. We have a whopping 90 minutes today, which is great. Usually we're given like 20 minutes, 5 minutes, so it's a lot of information to cram into a short period of time. But we are very thankful for the 90 minutes that we have today to spend with you. We plan to cover mostly the updates on the CARES Act and how it pertains to the UI program. I also want to thank the participants who signed up for last week's webinar, which was, of course, postponed until today. Our goal is to provide you with a meaningful presentation that is information that you can use. The extra time that we needed last week was so that we could implement the $600 stimulus payment over the weekend. So I'm really happy to report that that's up and running and payments are now being made for that particular element of the CARES Act. However, in the perfect world, we would have loved to have 100% of the information for you today and all the answers to your questions. However, since one of the programs we have is brand new, we're still working through the process and awaiting DOL, the Department of Labor guidance on that. But we really felt it was important to share with you what we know now and share additional information and updates on our website as they become available. So let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today. I'd like to share with you some of our behind-the-scenes work as far as what we're doing to handle the historic volume. I know in your line of work, the folks that work behind the scenes are equally as important as the front line. We'll talk about how the CARES Act and unemployment blend together, and also some special provisions that we have as a result of the coronavirus. Whenever we put together a presentation, it's always hard to gauge the level of understanding of our program. We're the first to acknowledge that it's really complex. So for a lot of you, this next section would be a repeat. It's just the basics, understanding our claim process. But for those of you that are new to the UI program, it'll help you understand how the flow works and what to expect. We'll also go over some self-service tools that you can access 24/7 on your laptop, desktop, mobile phone, or tablet. We'll speak very briefly about some of the other EDD programs that you potentially could be eligible while on unemployment. Then lastly, Brandy will go over the advanced questions that we received that are particular to the entertainment industry. So the first thing we did is we knew that we were in for a big shock. So we expanded our hours in our field offices for our staff to be able to file claims and make benefit payments. While we may think most of the process is automated, there is a lot of before and after work that has to be completed before a claim can be paid. Keep in mind at the present time, our call centers are only open from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday, but our staff actually report as early as 6 o'clock in the morning and leave as late as 8 p.m., so we can handle all the behind-the-scenes work. We've also reassigned managers and support staff to work production work, as we call it. That's answering the phones, working the queues, handling inbound correspondence, etc. And we've been very, very grateful that we've been able to borrow staff from other EDD branches and other state government agencies to help with our workload. We've also hired new staff, and to make sure our systems are running in tip-top shape, we perform hourly health checks to potentially identify any sort of slowness issues or any type of issue that might interrupt service to our customers. Another important element of our plan is we've upgraded our systems with more and more robust servers. We've streamlined some of our processes so we can file claims and get the benefits paid faster. We're also excited to announce, as the governor mentioned earlier this week, that we're opening a new call center to accommodate all the folks that are coming from the other government agencies. It'll be open sometime in mid to late April, and they will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And they'll be there primarily to assist customers with filing and using UI online. So they'll provide you with, like a technical support center would. They would be there to provide you with how to log in, how to answer a particular question on the screen flow, or guide you in the right direction. Keep in mind, these are not fully trained UI representatives. They would not be able to answer specific questions about your claim. So the Federal CARES Act really consists of three major components as it applies to the UI program. The first one is officially called the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, but here in California, we're calling it Pandemic Additional Compensation, PAC. This is basically the $600 stimulus payment that you'll get in addition to your weekly benefit amount. So really all it truly is just a stimulus payment. For those of you that were around during the Great Recession, the stimulus payment was a very paltry $25. So I'm sure that you're glad to see that this amount is $600. It'll really go a long way in helping folks get through these difficult times. The other program that is new is called the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. And I focus on the letter E on this acronym because it's really an extension. It's up to 13 weeks of extended benefits. And we'll go more into detail about each of these programs on the subsequent slides. And the last program is something that we're really excited to talk about and share information on, but we're still working through the process. It's called the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. And this is a special program that provides UI benefits for those who normally don't qualify for regular benefits, such as business owners, self-employed, and independent contractors. So let's talk more a little bit about the stimulus payment. The good thing about this is, thanks to the automation that we were able to program over the weekend, the $600 will automatically be added to your weekly benefit amount each week you qualify for $1 or more in benefits. It applies to almost all of our UI compensation programs, including the extension. However, there are two exceptions which probably don't pertain much to the entertainment industry, and that would be someone that's collecting on a training extension or a special state school benefits program. Here's the key with this particular stimulus payment. It only applies between March 29th and July 31st. So this is the date range, and it's a very finite period of time. So over the weekend, we were able to pay any claims that ended on April 11th. That included the automatic payment, stimulus payment for each eligible week. However, if you were already paid for the previous week, which means April the 4th, don't worry. We will make an automatic adjustment payment as soon as the programming becomes available. And we hope that to be in the very near future. So keep that in mind. We're working hard on that component. But once those back payments are made, everything should flow on a regular basis through the end of July. The next program is the extension. And what this really does is provides 13 additional weeks of benefits when all the benefits associated with the regular claim are exhausted. This also, too, has a very finite period. It goes into effect on March 29th, and the sunset date is December 31st of this year. Keeping in mind, in California, most of our regular claims are at 26 weeks. If you add the 13 weeks on top of it, you get 39 weeks of benefits during a one-year time frame. This is also an issue where we're waiting for the guidance from the DOL so we can start our programming, but we don't expect many folks to be at this point quite yet. There'll be probably a small handful, but not many. So we're still waiting for programming guidance. And one last little footnote here is that additional state and federal extensions may become available at a later time, if authorized by California and or the federal government. And those are usually dependent upon the unemployment rate. Those are the triggers. So here's the program that everybody's been waiting for. It seems to be elusive. They're hearing about it, but they want more detail. So this is called the Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program. Again, this provides benefits for customers not usually eligible for regular unemployment or extended benefits. The focus really here is our business owners, self-employed, and independent contractors. We also have some claimants that have a claim, it's within the 1-year validity, but they've exhausted their benefits, so they may potentially be eligible for this as well. And then we also have folks who are just now entering the workforce. Maybe someone just got started, they graduated from college, they've got a new job, started in January, February, now they're out of work. Well, this program takes that into consideration to try to help those claimants as well. This particular program provides up to 39 weeks worth of benefits, and there's no waiting period. So remember how we talked about a regular claim being 26 weeks plus 13 weeks for an extension for a total of 39 weeks? This particular program doesn't have an extension, but it builds the additional weeks into the program. And it applies between February 2nd and December 31st of this year. Keep in mind that it's triggered based on when you personally were first directly impacted by the coronavirus. And in California, for most folks, that's the middle part of March and beyond. The $600 stimulus does apply to this program, but again, it's that finite period between March 29th and July 31st. And while we're working through the actual process right now, we're advising people that will confirm and that affirm that they are in this particular category. We're advising them not to file a claim at this time, but to wait for further guidance from the EDD. We hope to have that information out shortly. And the good thing about this is we know that because of the delay, we will be able to backdate your claim to the date that you became directly impacted by the coronavirus. So for example, if your first date of impact or the week began on the 15th of March, because all of the UI weeks begin on a Sunday, the claim would go back to that date and be retroactive. So we'll make it right, don't worry about that. So instructions will be made available shortly on the EDD website, and we'll give you a brief tour of that later on in the presentation so you know how to locate information easily. So, because it's such a new program, I know it's a lot of information. I'm not expecting you to commit it to memory. It is on the web. But we do want to just go over some common circumstances that will help what they call a qualifying event. So the first one is your place of employment is closed as a direct result of the coronavirus. Or you were unable to work because a healthcare provider advised you to self-quarantine. A member of your household has been diagnosed with the coronavirus. Or you're providing care for a family member or a member of your household who has been diagnosed with the coronavirus. Additionally, if you are the primary caregiver for a child or another person in your house, and they're unable to attend school or a care facility that is closed as a direct result of COVID-19, and their care is required for you to work, you'd also be potentially eligible. This also applies if you quit your job as a direct result. And just be aware that this is a really great provision because a lot of people had to, were forced with no other alternatives. Another thing too is you were scheduled, this probably happens a lot in your industry where you're scheduled to start a job. Now it's unavailable as the direct result of the coronavirus public health emergency. So again, that's really, really important. I feel this is probably going to be more common in your industry. And lastly, if you're unable to reach your place of employment as a result of the coronavirus, that could also be an issue and grounds for being eligible for the pandemic unemployment assistance known as PUA. So are you guys able to see my screen? I'm getting an internet connection unstable. Am I okay to proceed? Okay, so now we're going to talk about gig workers that work in the gig economy but do not consider themselves self-employed or an independent contractor. What we're advising them to do is to file a regular unemployment claim. We will reach out to them with requests for all sorts of information, so we want them to respond back as quickly as possible. We will then conduct an investigation to determine whether or not you're considered an employee, thereby eligible for a regular claim, or if you would fall under the independent contractor status, there would be then eligible for the pandemic unemployment assistance claim. So again, if you're unsure of what your classification is, and we know that a lot of folks have been misclassified over the years, please file the regular claim. It's not up to the employer or the person that's paying you, it's up to the EDD. We follow a litany of tests to ensure that you meet the correct definition for either an employee or an independent contractor. So just to kind of sum up this portion here, what claim is right for you? Well, if you have a current claim, if you're brand new to the program, obviously you're going to file a new claim, a regular unemployment claim if you're an employee. If you have a current claim but you've run out of benefits on or after March 28th, you're going to want to file the extension. If your claim is over a 1 year old, you want to file a new regular UI claim. Also, if you're a business owner, self-employed, or independent contractors, file for the PUA claim. And lastly, for the gig workers, just to reiterate, if unsure of your status, file a regular claim and we'll be happy to take it from there and determine what claim is right for you. There are some special provisions that I want to make you aware of for regular unemployment claims as a result of the coronavirus. The first one is thanks to Governor Newsom, he waived the 7-day waiting period on all regular claims filed on or after January 19th. And because we know a lot of you guys are just waiting for the sanctions to be lifted so you can go back to work, you're not required to work. Look for work each week to be eligible for benefits. However, if you're guided by your union to report each week for work or check with them for employment, please continue to do so. Follow all the instructions provided by your unions. So now we're going into the basics. For some of you, this will be old information. For some of you, it may be new. But basically, the UI program was established many, many decades ago to provide partial income replacement for employees who have lost their jobs or have had their hours reduced due to no fault of their own. And the key really here is the hours reduced, because we know some people are still able to work a little bit, but not their regular full schedule. As a guideline, if your salary or your hours are reduced by 20% or more, you would more than likely be eligible for partial unemployment benefits. So please file if that is your particular case. Unemployment, unlike our disability and paid family leave programs, is completely funded by your employer at no cost to the employees. Our weekly benefits range from $40 a week to $450 a week based on your highest quarterly earnings. The benefit is even if you're at the low range of that scale, you're still going to get the $600 weekly stimulus payment automatically added to your weekly benefit amount between March 29th and July 31st of this year. And the 13-week extension does apply, but it has to be completed by December 31st. So the basics of filing a claim, they're pretty straightforward because we have filed over 2.5 million claims over the last 3 weeks. The best way to really do this, and the fastest way really, is to use UI Online. The first step to doing that is to create a benefit program's online login that grants you access to all of our EDD benefit programs, including the UI program, paid disability insurance, and paid family leave. And that's really important because throughout your time being unemployment, if you become ill, you can stop your UI claim and transition to the DI claim, and then come back to us when you're finished and able to work again. We always want to make sure our customers are notified in writing that they will get information. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But when you do your claim online, most of our customers get a confirmation email within a few days, letting them know that their UI Online account has been created for them. What that basically does is once you've filed the claim, that's step one of you, it's a portion of UI Online. Then after the claim is filed and we know you're eligible, we give you complete access to your claim information and different functionalities, such as being able to look up your payments, change your address, and things of that nature. Also, beginning in mid to late April, our UI Online Technical Support Center will be open from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, to help you with registration if needed, as well as online claim filing using the UI Online application. So there is help on its way, hoping very, very soon. The other option is to speak to a representative between 8 a.m. and 12 noon. We're open except for weekends and holidays on the various toll-free numbers, and they're available in English, Spanish, Tagalog, Mandarin, Cantonese, and Vietnamese. So we have separate numbers for each of those languages. They're on our website. And then our fax mail is the third and probably our least desirable option, only because it takes a while for the mail to get to us. That's where you can complete the paper application and submit it as directed on the form. There's a fax number there, as well as a mailing address. So we really try to impress upon people that that would maybe be your last resort, but we do know that there are some special claims that we have, such as those that involve working in multiple states, or just working in a state other than California that would not allow you to file online. So those are the three options: online, phone, or fax and mail. So here are some tips before you get started. You want to get all of your employment information for the last 18 months. And this is really important for us because we want to give you the highest weekly benefit amount we can. And the way we do that is by gathering the employers that you work for, your earnings, so that you can qualify the most that we can possibly offer you. Again, applying through UI Online is the fastest way to do it. We do know that sometimes you get stuck in the middle of something, and maybe you have to go look something up in another room. There is a save as draft feature, so if you want to save your work, you can use the save as draft feature. It's at the bottom of the screen. That gives you more time to complete the application. But keep in mind, you have to return by 8 o'clock on Saturday to complete the application. Otherwise, all that information goes away. Another thing that we need to impress upon you is when you select your separation reason, it could be laid off due to lack of work, it could be whatever the issue may be, but the next drop-down that you're going to need to select is COVID-19. And that allows our system to apply all these waivers and special payments. So please make sure that when you're filing online, the second drop-down must indicate COVID-19 if you're impacted by the coronavirus, which most of our customers are at this point. Also, when selecting your job and industry occupation, select the one that best describes your job. We're required by the Department of Labor to collect these demographics, and it's not that we're being nosy or anything, it's just that they need this information. They can kind of take a look and see what industries are hardest hit, maybe where some grants need to go, things of that nature. But it really is helpful to them as well. Also, please do not indicate that you're out of work due to a disaster, strike, or lockout. That will only delay your claim because that means a human has to look at the claim. Now, if you truly are on strike or you've been locked out for labor reasons, then yes, that's okay. But some folks are thinking, gee, I can't go to work because of a quarantine issue. Well, that's not a lockout. That's related to the coronavirus. So different situation altogether. And then if you get stuck and you have some time to kill, we have a really great video. It's available in 5 languages: English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Mandarin, and Cantonese, on how to apply for UI benefits. And this really is the end-to-end process, and it takes you step by step. It's very well done, and it's produced by Brandy's team. So, after you've spent time laboring over filing your claim, I think you need to wipe your brows and take a break, have a glass of wine, and then kind of know what's coming next. So, what happens next is the EDD will send important information to you by mail. This is a legal requirement. We would love to send it to you via email, but we can't. So what we do is we send you a confirmation that your claim was filed. We let you know what your weekly benefit amount is and how it was computed. And these 2 documents are super important because it gives you the opportunity to make sure the EDD captured all of your information correctly. If we didn't, no worries. You can send us back the form to the address indicated on it, or go to your UI Online account and send us a secured message. The other document you will get is the EDD customer account number. And this is for customers that have to actually register and create their own UI Online account. It can also be used when speaking to a representative if you don't feel comfortable using your social. So again, the moral of this story is to verify the accuracy of your claim and wage information and to let us know as soon as possible if anything is incorrect. We also highly encourage you to read, review, and respond to all EDD communication because often is the case, we know we're hard to get a hold of, and you might be too, so we want to make sure we can reach out to you via mail and or email and get information that we need to process your claim and or benefit payments. So that leads us into how to get paid. Well, every 2 weeks, you have to let the EDD know that you're still eligible for unemployment. This process is known as certifying for benefits. And quite honestly, the fastest way really is online. You can use our desktop version, which is UI Online, or the mobile version, which is UI Online Mobile. This particular system is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're not automatically registered by the system, then you'll have to register with your EDD customer account number. And the really cool thing about this one is we send you a reminder every time it's time for you to go online and certify for your benefits. This keeps your claim on track and lets you know the earliest possible date that you can request your benefit payments. A tip I would share with you on this is I personally prefer UI Online Mobile if I don't have any wages to report. It's such a simple process. It can be done in less than 2 minutes, really easy. So if you have a smartphone and you have simple certification with no address changes or wages to report, use UI Online Mobile. I think you'll really like it. It looks different than the desktop version, but it's super simple and it's super fast. We also have a telephonic method called EDD Telecert that's available by calling the number on your screen. This is our self-service phone line. You do need to either enter or create a 4-digit PIN to access the system, but it's pretty straightforward. Just follow the prompts. I will share with you if you're having any slowness issues with the online versions, whether either it be the internet provider that you have or you're in an area with spotty reception, try the Telecert. It takes a little bit longer, but I would share with you that it is an alternate method to help you get your benefit payments in quickly. And then lastly, if you prefer to mail the paper claim forms, it's totally up to you. We just want you to allow extra time for mail delivery and processing. So our goal really is to get you paid faster and keep you well informed. So how do we do that? Well, we encourage you to use our self-service applications, UI Online Mobile, UI Online, and the Telecert program. What we would share with you is we know the first time you're accessing, it's kind of like an egg hunt trying to find it. But once you get to the benefit programs online screen, that is your portal to all of our EDD benefit programs and systems, be sure to bookmark it. So you don't have to go through all that grief later on. We also want to let you know that you can set alerts through Bank of America to be notified when the EDD posts the payment to your debit card. And a lot of our customers find this to be really helpful. You can also set an alert to be notified when you have a low balance. Also, read and respond promptly if requested to all EDD communication, and be available for any phone interviews to resolve any claim issues that might crop up. And generally speaking, you'll always be notified in writing by mail the time and date of your interview. And don't view it as a disqualification, because in most cases, we're just reaching out to you to get more information to process the claim. Maybe we couldn't read something on a handwritten application, or something was confusing or didn't sync up. So just be available for that phone interview, because we know, number one, we're very difficult to get a hold of. So rather than ask you to call us, we reach out to you by scheduling these phone interviews. We also encourage you to use our helpful web pages and educational videos on the EDD website. And there's even one specifically designed for the entertainment industry on how to report different types of income you get, like residuals and royalties. And lastly, stay well informed by checking our COVID-19 webpage for updates and FAQs. What we plan to do is, later on this week, we're hoping to release a special page called Resources for the Entertainment Industry. And this will have all the information that's specific to your circumstances. It'll have its own set of FAQs. We'll probably be pulling a lot of the information from the chat pod to create some of the content. So please don't be shy. If you have a question, please enter it in the chat pod. So again, you've cleared another hurdle, but how do you actually get your money? Good question. Once your first payment is made, you'll receive an EDD debit card in the mail. So once we authorize the first payment, it takes about 5 business days for you to get the card from Bank of America. Keep in mind the card is valid for 3 years from the date of issuance, and it's used for all of our different benefit programs, including disability and paid family leave. If you already have an ED debit card from a previous UI, DI, or PFL claim, it's still valid. So you can still use that card, and when it gets close to expiring, the Bank of America will send you a new card. If you've misplaced the card and it's still valid, you need to contact Bank of America customer service for assistance. And it works just like any prepaid debit card. It can be used any place, Visa's accepted. You can even set up automatic direct deposit transfers to the financial institution of your choice. And again, the setting of the alerts is really important too, whenever a deposit is made or when you have a low balance. Fortunately, Bank of America has a dedicated call center just for EDD customers. They're available 24/7. They offer over 90 different languages, and you can reach them online or by phone based on the information shared on the screen. It's also plastered all over our website. One thing that I would share with you that's really important is that Bank of America branch offices cannot assist with debit card inquiries other than to help you with an ATM or teller withdrawal. They can't tell you when your last payment was made. It's a very specialized program, and for that reason, it's handled strictly by the dedicated EDD Debit Card Bank of America Customer Service Center. Again, that's a 24/7 service, either online or by phone. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of our self-service tools, because I know it's frustrating when you can't get through on the phone to talk to someone. The chances are a lot of the information is going to be available for you online. So as always, we like to start with the website. That's where life begins on our website for launching our different self-service applications, updates, UI online. I won't go into a lot of great detail, but in addition to certifying for your benefits, you can get detailed payment information on every payment we've made to you. You can also ask a question in a secure environment about your claim. You can be really specific. As Hugo mentioned earlier, we want to really protect your confidentiality and personal information, and this is the best way to do it because it's all done through a secure system with different layers of security built into it. And then if you have a move or a change, or your phone number needs to be updated, you can do that all on your own. You can go right into the system and update that. Our self-service phone line, which is the number posted, is great if you want to certify for benefits by phone. It will give you payment information for the last payment made, but it's updated only once a day at 6 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't give you all your payments like the online version does. You can also hear general information about the UI program, such as what information is required to file a claim. And there's also some really helpful information for employers on there as well. One thing I would like to point out, while we pride ourselves on 24/7 access to our online services, for filing a new claim, and this is the only functionality where there's a little minor restriction, some late night and early morning hours are not available due to scheduled maintenance. And it's not because of us. We interact with different other government databases like the DMV and the Social Security Administration, and they bring their systems down every day at the same time. So that's why you see these really odd hours where the system is not available. Generally, the EDD does our maintenance once a week or once a month, depending on the circumstances, and it's usually very late at night, and we try to minimize the disruption of our online services. So other EDD programs you just need to be aware of, we won't go into great detail about them, but the California State Disability Insurance Program is actually two components. There's short-term disability, which is known as DI, and paid family leave, PFL. And that's wage replacement to eligible workers who need time off work. Disability is if you are suffering an illness or injury that's not occupational related. And paid family leave would be, let's say you need to care for someone in your family, or you want to bond with a newborn. So keep an eye on those are the two programs that are also part of the EDD umbrella and suite of services. Once again, you have your benefit programs online account, you do get access to the online system called SDI Online, which is your portal for disability and paid family leave. So before we I turn this over to Brandy to talk about the frequently asked questions that were submitted previously and to answer some of the live questions that are coming in through the chat pod. I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and we want to debut our recently refreshed, shall we say, website, because it's changed quite a bit over the last few weeks, and I just want to show you how it's been updated and reformatted so you can find information a lot easier. So bear with me for just a second while I pull that information up, and hopefully you can see it on the screen. Hold on for just a second. Okay, here we go. So this is the EDD landing page. Unfortunately, we no longer have to do the www.
We can't see the.
Okay. Let me try to share again. Hold on. Hugo, can you see it now?
No.
No, okay.
So
I'm going to try sharing it one last time.
if you just there we are.
Okay, let me just go back a step here. So this is the EDD landing page or home page. If you don't need to remember any long involved URLs. You just simply edd.ca.gov takes you right here. And because the topic of the day is the coronavirus, it's front and center. So all you have to do is just select the resources tab. It will take you to the coronavirus landing page. And for those of you who prefer the Spanish language version, you can switch languages really easily. So the site consists of some really good components. If you've already filed your claim, we have a step-by-step chart that walks you through the process on what to expect. We also have all of our news releases under the latest news, any sort of updates that you would want to be, aware of. It also links to the pandemic unemployment assistance page. Right now, it's just really basic information, but once we get the process in place, you're going to find a lot more. It'll be much more data rich and more helpful at that point. And then what I want to draw your attention to really are the frequently asked questions. And then there's also a section for worker resources, as well as employers. So it talks about some kind of an overview of the program. It gives you some important links to go to. It gives you some conditions when you could conceivably be eligible for, a claim. So this is really a great place to start, and it's, fairly easy to navigate. As I mentioned previously, we're hoping to get a dedicated page for the entertainment industry workers up and running in the very near future. You'll have a very similar look and feel. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and have you take a look. It's, not horribly difficult to navigate. And our search engine is really pretty good. So if you can't find what you're looking for, just use the search box to find your information. Okay, so before we continue, Hugo, can you see the PowerPoint at this point?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just bring it into full view here. And now I'd like to introduce Brandy Dearte, and she's going to go ahead and answer some of the advanced questions that were submitted over the last few weeks, as well as try to answer some of the more general questions from the chat pod. Okay, Brandy.
Thanks, Ken. Hi, I'm Brandy Dearte. I've been answering the questions in the chat pod, and I apologize. There are thousands of them, and I'm trying to answer as many as I can. So let me answer some of these FAQs, because I think when I answer these FAQs, I've been reading through what you've been asking, and I'm hoping I'll kind of hit on some of the things that you're asking. Let's start with, what should you list as your last day of work? It's not a trick question from us. We're just looking for, when did you last physically work with any employer, not just the one you've worked with longest, not just one that you're recently with, who is the last person you physically worked with as of the day that you filed. So let's say I filed today, and today is Tuesday. If I worked yesterday for the employer that I've been working for a long time, and I left them at 10 o'clock yesterday morning, but then I worked my barista job in the afternoon and I worked till 3, the only employer I have to list and the last day of work I have to list is yesterday's date, but the employer I would list as my last employer would be the barista job. Even though I only did it for an hour a day, it was very short, whatever. We're just looking for who you last physically worked for and your last day of physical work. So that's how we answer that question. You want to move me forward? Okay, thanks. Which box do you check? Ken already covered this. I know you see disaster relief, but the pandemic unemployment assurance, although it looks very similar to disaster relief, it is not a disaster program. It's a program based on the CARES Act. So please do not use disaster. You'll get a lot of questions if you go that route that you won't know how to answer. And it'll seem odd and you'll be like, but there was no fire or flood. What do you want me to answer here? So don't use disaster relief. You want to file a regular UI claim. Okay, what separation reason do I use if my contract ended? at that point, you use you pick whatever is the best option from the drop-down menu. Some of our drop-down menus in certain spots will have contract ended. Some of them do not. But if they have layoff, that is the one that you would use. If you were contracted to work, and let's say the contract says you're going to work for a month, or you're going to work for a certain time period, or a generic time period, when you have fulfilled that contract, you are technically laid off. So use the laid off lack of work. Now, right now, there are two drop downs that look similar. There's laid off lack of work and laid off lack of work for COVID reasons. If your assignment abruptly ends because of COVID, like let's say you were probably going to do your assignment all the way through the month of April, but your employer said, nope, we're shutting down because of COVID, we have to, and they cut off the work, then you want to use laid off due to COVID. If you truly finished your contract and you're laid off, then you would do laid off. If you finish your contract and you're truly laid off, but you can't get any new work because of COVID, you want laid off due to COVID. As long as you use that, and if you forgot to use that, it's not going to hurt you or affect you in any way. It just allows us to more closely pool when we go back and we try to look for certain claims that meet certain criteria. If you don't meet that criteria because you answered the wrong way, don't worry about it. We have many ways in which we look for claims that might be eligible for certain programs. So I know a lot of people are like, but what if I filed and got a zero balance? But what if I did this? It's okay. Once our programming is in place, we have metrics in place that we go back. We attempt to reach out to you. We attempt to look for people who might qualify. We send letters. Typically, I can't say we'll do this for sure, but we did it in the last disaster. We sent letters to everybody whose claim met the requirements. Hi, your claim looks like it could meet the requirements. If you're unemployed, please contact us. So we make many efforts to reach out to you, to get you to reach back to us. But right now you're going to say our phones are slammed, and I get that. That's why we're opening that new center. We're trying to get you ways to reach us. We know it's impossible to reach us. But right now, we're in the same situation you are. We have a small, finite amount of people, and we have to decide, do we put these people on getting claims filed and getting people paid, or do we put these people on answering phones? So although we are answering phones to the best of our ability, we're moving a lot of our skilled staff toward working on getting people filed and getting people paid, because in the end, that's what you need. So please bear with us. I super apologize in advance, and I know it is frustrating, but we are working hard to just get you taken care of so that hopefully you won't have to continue to call us. We don't want you to have to. We feel bad, and we are doing, like Ken said, we have people working from 6 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. They are trying to get everything paid. Let's go to our next question. During the past 18 months, I worked in California and another state. How do I file my claim? I'm going to answer both of these questions. So the first one is, if you know you worked in another state and you believe that your wages may be reported in that other state because it's before the law that passed that affects January 1st and where payroll is reported, I am so sorry, but you will need to call and speak with us. In order for us to pull up our system and figure out which state you belong to and what state you can file against, we need to have you on the phone so that we can ask you questions, so that we can enter it into the database. We can see the other states. So if you're talking to us, we can pull up those other states, we can find your wages, and we can tell you what your options are, and that's why we have to talk to you. That's why we can't just auto-file those, because we need to ask you questions, and then you need to decide, do you want to continue with California, or do you want to go explore a different state? And so that's the reason why you have to talk to us, and I apologize for that. You will need to get through to us. Now, what's the difference between an interstate claim and a combined wage claim? A combined wage claim means just what it says. We take wages from another state, we bring them to California, and we pay you in California based on both states wages. They're used to establish your claim. An interstate claim means all your wages are in another state, but you live in California, and so in that case, you would file in California, and that's the interstate claim, sorry. Okay, during the past 18 months, whoops,
Sorry.
wait, he's flipping. Sorry. Okay, during the past 18 months, oh, that was our question. So there is a difference between interstate and combined, but to be honest, you don't need to know or care about that. When you come to us, it is our job to figure out what affects you, what is your situation, and how do we get you correctly paid. So that is our job and requirement. You don't need to know, you don't need to ask for one of the two. And even with the COVID stuff, there's all different types of developments and abilities to get paid. It is not your job to know what you need. It's your job to reach us. We then give you what you're eligible for and what you need. And I promise you, I know some of you are mentioning, I've faxed, I've done things, I'm not hearing from you. It's the volume that's causing us not to be able to communicate. But I promise you, everybody is in queue in the way that they come in. And we are working those piece by piece by piece by piece. And a week ago, we had 600,000 claims waiting to be filed. And yesterday, we finally caught up. So we are getting there. Once we get there, we move the force to the next realm of getting people paid. So we are in between moving our sources to wherever we need to get you best paid. So just to let you know, we're getting there, and we are going to reach out to you. So don't worry if you haven't received anything yet. You will receive it. And just because you haven't received it yet doesn't mean it won't cover from when you originally filed, because it will. And so once we get it filed and set up and we're ready to go, you'll get all of the payment that would come in. You'd get forms, you'll fill them out, and you gradually will get caught up. So don't worry about the fact that we're taking a lot of time. I know it is tough for you, and we know it too, and that's why we are working super hard to get you all paid as fast as we can. Let's go to the next one. Okay, if you opened a claim before the pandemic and you're now laid off, do you reopen the existing claim? It's going to depend, and this is one of those questions that I can't totally answer because it's individual to the person. If your regular claim has benefits left, you would go to your regular claim and you would be paid on your regular claim. And if you fall within that window of the additional payment on your regular claim, you will get your regular benefit and the additional benefit. If you've exhausted your regular claim and you file for us now, and we have all our programming in place, because again, like Ken said, we don't have everything ready to go, you would most likely next go to the extension that's done. That extension, if you qualify for it, and basically that one doesn't require you to be COVID affected, it just requires you to need an extension. Once you get that, you can get the additional payments along with that, provided you're in that window of when additional payments can be paid. If for some reason you could not get that, and there's really no reason you wouldn't get that, then you would be able to file for the PUA claim, which is also a claim geared more towards your self-employed 1099, no base period wage people. They will most likely get the PUA claim, and the PUA claim can last for a total of 39 weeks. A regular claim lasts for 26 weeks. A extension is 13 weeks. They're trying to make it pretty comparably equal, that if you're down one path, you get paid, or you go down a different path and get paid. But again, that's our job at EDD, to figure out which path you belong in. So you don't have to worry. You just have to call us and say, hi, I'm unemployed. What do I need to do? What do I qualify for? But right now I can tell you, we don't have the programming in place for the extension. We don't have all the rules of how it works in place. We're still waiting for guidance, just like Ken said. We don't have everything in place to file the PUA claims either. We expect to have it before the end of April, so it's coming very, very soon. So once we get that in place, we go back and we deal with, now that we have the ability, let's go and solve all the issues that we need to handle. So we do go back and we do look for people who might qualify. We reach out to them and say, hey, if you qualify, contact us. We're ready now. Another thing, like Ken said, watch our COVID page. It will tell you when we're available, because when we're up and ready to file any one of these claims, it will be posted on that page. That page is critical to tell you when to contact us back, because that's when we're going to be able to file. And we know we did not have our programming in place. So if because we don't have that in place, it takes you, a month later to even file, we're going to understand that. And we allow you to go back to times previous so that you can get what you deserve the whole time. It's not your fault that we're not ready. This is a brand new program. This is all new programming for us. So it does take time, and we know that. And so we're generous and we go, okay, we have to back up the claims and allow these people to collect. So don't worry that we don't have it ready. We go back and we make it match to our situation, especially because of this situation. So next one. Is there a difference on how you apply or how you report your income if you are incorporated as a loan out? According to this situation, an individual who is an owner, employee of a closely held corporation and files for unemployment, they file for unemployment the same way anyone else does. So don't worry about what type of employee or how you are incorporated. You just need to come to us and say, I'm unemployed, and then we will help you to get to where you need to be. But to determine eligibility in a situation of an employee who's an employee of these closely held corporations, we look at whether you're unemployed through no fault of your own, and COVID would be through no fault of your own. We look at whether you can control your unemployment or whether the nature of your work is seasonal or erratic. So even if we were in non-COVID times, we look at, are you able to control your employment? Because if you can control your employment, then we have to look at, are you purposely causing yourself to be unemployed? And that's why that rule is there. But in this situation, that is not going to apply to anyone. So we know that. So most of these people, you're just going to come in. We're going to have to establish that this is through no fault of your own. And once we do that, we would be able to go forward and handle the claim. Under our section 621 of our UI code, an employee includes any officer of a corporation. An individual who is an officer is an employee of the corporation, even though he or she may be the sole major stockholder of the corporation. If the officer or corporation files a claim and lists the corporation as their last employer, that can be appropriate, provided the individual has not performed services as an employee for anyone else prior to filing the claim. So we're going to look at, did you work for anybody else? Like you might be the officer of your corporation, but you might also have secondary work. So we just have to figure out who is your last employer, how does this work, how do we get the correct wages and appropriate claim for you. So again, there is no difference on how you reply or report your income. On UI claims, you report your income on the week that you earn it, not when you receive it, except for residuals, that is when you receive it. So, but actual work, you report when you have it. Like I know I worked on Monday for 8 hours, and I know that at the end, when they finally pay me, I'm going to get $100 for that. You would report $100 even if you don't have that check in hand yet, because you know you're going to get that pay, so you report it. So you always report when you're going to be paid. Residuals is the exception, and like Ken said, we do have a video that talks about residuals. We have a form that we can mail to you that explains how to report residuals, but residuals you report when you receive them, or if you're notified by phone when you're told about them and you're aware of them, like somebody calls you and says, hey, this just went to your bank account. Technically, it's when you receive it. So you're really reporting residuals when you receive them. That's how you would report those. And we know that when we look at your base period later on, those residuals show in our system when the corporation pays them, not when you receive them. And we know there's a delay, and that's why we ask you to report it when you receive it. Let's go to the next one. Do entertainment industry workers need to list all employers for the past 18 months? You need to do that as best as possible, and here's the reason why. As long as we know who all the employers are, we know that we've given you the correct amount of wages in your base period. But if for some reason you forget an employer or you don't remember an employer, and then we send you a letter after you file your claim that says, this is who we see in your base period and who is paying for your claim. If you get that letter and go, hey, wait a minute, you're missing employer ABC, or I know I earned a check for this amount and I don't see it here, you can then contact us you can either call us if you can get through to us, or the address on the letter, there'll be an address there. You can send proof of that, and we can add that after the fact to your claim. If it affects your claim, your wages could increase. And then if we owed you money for your new additional award, we would give you a check for all of the time that your claim was paid at the lower balance. However, there are situations where if you make over $11,672, you are at the maximum benefits anyway. So even if you report to us additional employers, it won't change your weekly or your total claim amount, but it affects who we charge for your claim. We still want to know that information, but understand if you're at the maximum, we can't increase it any further. Let's go for the next question. Who do you list as the employer for residual pay? Residual pay goes based on who the employer is. So if your residual is paid by like talent partners or an agency that is basically taking on the responsibility for unemployment insurance for the entity that paid the residual, you would report the entity talent partners as the residual. If you, if you are looking to, if the actual entity paid you, Warner Brothers, and they paid your residual, and usually that'll be on your check, then you would just list Warner Brothers as the person who paid it. So you're always safe going with who is the payer on the check as putting that down. We ultimately will be able to see what employer it is when we match it up after the fact. We do audits after all these claims are done where we match that up and we see that. And if you report an incorrect employer for a residual pay, it's not like there is a penalty for that. We just want to make sure that when we do these audits after the fact, we can attach that residual pay to the appropriate employer who may have paid that residual 2 or 3 months prior so that we don't affect your claim. So that's the only reason why we want that employer name. To the best of your ability, report the payroll company if that's who issues you it, or report the employer that shows on the check if all else fails. Okay, if you haven't received your last check due to the shutdown and you don't know how much you made, how do you answer that question when filing? You have to estimate, and whether you are in the entertainment industry or any industry, it's the same thing. You have to do your best guess based on what you understand. So if I am filing today, Tuesday, and I know I worked yesterday and I expect to be paid $100 when I eventually get paid, I would say, yes, I worked and the amount of money I'm going to earn is $100 because I know that. Sometimes you won't know that in advance. That will not be held against you. If you don't know it in advance, when you receive that check, eventually, some people say, hey, I didn't even know I was going to be paid. So in that type of a situation, when you receive the check on your online account, you can go into the question and answer section of the online account and you can say, hi, I didn't know I was getting this pay. It's this much money. This is the person it's from, name and address, whatever's on the check. This is what I believe it to be for. Most likely, we'll schedule you for an interview to determine if it is even disqualifying or will affect your benefits. Sometimes it won't. When we're dealing with deferred compensation like sick days and vacation, if you don't have a definite day to return to your employer, some of those sick pay and vacation pays don't count against you. If you expect to return and you're accepting sick pay or vacation pay in between, that's usually when it affects you. So again, every case is so individual. I don't want you to walk away thinking, oh, she said that it'll count or it won't count. You would have to go through a determination. We have to look at your individual circumstance to decide, does that affect you or does it not? And if it does, we would take care of it. The fact that you are letting us know, we take into account, did you know about this? If you reasonably knew it or should have known it, then they can assess a penalty. But usually, especially with entertainment industry, we are pretty understanding because we know there's a lot of situations you don't know. And so if we can tell there's no way you knew in advance and you gave it to us when you could, There is no fraud on your part. There's no fault. We just need you to pay back what you owe because you technically shouldn't have been paid. So you may get an overpayment, but you usually would not get the penalty in those circumstances. Let's go forward. How do you calculate the weekly hours and hourly rate if you receive a flat fee for a service? This calculation, it depends on what we know about the pay. If I know I'm going to work for a day and I'm going to get $100, that's easy. I just throw it on one day. But what if they tell you we're going to pay you $1,300 for your time in this production, and you don't know how long or when it's going to start and end exactly? So you're like, so how do I report that? Usually what would happen is if you know you're going to get paid, like, let's say like the $1,300, and it's going to last for 13 weeks, most likely, because that's the latest they'll do your presentation, you would divide it equally over that time frame. You have to do the best you can to report it based on what you know. Not all situations will evenly shave with hours. Not all situations will shave with weeks. Sometimes the beginning and end is a little bit open-ended. In those cases, you have to do the best you can. If you absolutely cannot attribute the money in advance to where you can tell us while it's happening, then you have to report it once you have that information. And if you take your best guesstimate up front and we figure it out in the end, usually the difference is pretty close. And unless you meet a certain threshold of difference, we actually don't even pursue those overpayments. So it's really important to report it to the best of your ability when you can, based on what is the time period it covers and what's the total amount you expect to be paid. And then it's just a dividing game, and you do that as best as possible. For regular employed people, we always tell them, if you don't work on Sunday or Saturday, you don't have to consider that. If they're going to pay you for 2 weeks and there's only 10 days in that 2 weeks, you're dividing it in half over the 2. If you know that, it's going to happen and it's only 7 days, you don't have to attribute money to Saturday and Sunday if you don't work on those days. So again, every situation is unique. You have to take, to the best of your ability, what the time frame is and the total amount, and divide it and report it as best as you can. And we get that. And when you tell us later on, hey, guess what? I told you it was this amount, but they actually paid me this. We just do the calculation to do the difference. And sometimes it's in your favor and sometimes it isn't. But most of the time, after the fact, we know, and we're able to properly attribute it and get you the benefits you deserve. If you are eligible for a difference, we pay that. Okay. How and when do you report residuals and royalties? You report them when you receive them. We have a form that we can mail out to people that explains that specifically, but basically you report them when you receive them or when you know you are going to receive them. That's technically when you have to report that to us. So if, like, you had an agent and the agent called and said, hey, I just mailed out your residual on the blah, blah, blah performance and you should get it any day, technically the day he calls you is the day you should be reporting it on that week when it falls. However, most people do not get a call in advance. Most people get told, like they open their bank statement and they see it there, or they receive a check in the mail. That's usually when you would report those. How do you report deferred compensation? You just tell us what you received, and we will most likely, like I said, schedule you to a determination to determine if you have a definite return to work day, because sick pay and vacation pay are not considered deductible income unless you have a definite return to work. And so we have to go to what we call an interview. We figure that out for your individual circumstance, and then we make the payment. How has SB 571 affected unemployment insurance for the entertainment industry? When we are able to get our FAQ online, we'll be able to make a more formal and in-depth study, but really SB 571 is a payroll decision, and the tax department of EDD would be the best to answer how that affects us. However, from an initial reading of the legislation, it allows the employers to pay into California. Even if you worked in Georgia, you can pay into California to establish a claim. The tax department would be best able to explain if those wages will show in Georgia or California, but it doesn't really affect EDD and eligibility. That's more affecting the base period on which we establish your claim, and really the tax branch is the one that makes those determinations. So we really can't comment on that. We can, when we bring the FAQs up, try to give you, provide you a more thorough answer, but our tax department has to respond to that. In the new federal stimulus package, there seems to be an additional $600 for the 4 months for those who are receiving UI. Do I get anything? Do I need to do anything? Okay, so let me explain the stimulus. Ken explained it really well on the slides, but basically the stimulus is for anyone claiming benefits of a certain type. There's only 2 types of claims that don't receive it, and most likely you are not on those 2 types of claims. But basically, any of our claims that we're going to have during the time period that the stimulus is eligible, the $600 will most likely be eligible. Now, some of you are saying in the chat, my friend got it, I didn't. We have paid, as Ken said, only the week of 4/11. The week of 4/4, we have to go back because we have to retroactively go back and pay those claims. We're not ready to do that yet. So if you have a claim where you were paid for the week of 4/4 and you just got your regular benefits and you didn't get the $600, that's because we just issued those payments on Saturday. And so we could not do retroactive. We could only do from that week forward. So for the week of April 11th and forward, you're going to see those payments coming in pretty consistent. We will eventually go back and pay that 1 week in arrears. So for those of you who haven't seen your payment, that's probably why. Now, this is available on a regular UI claim. It will be available on a PUA claim when we get the PUA claims done and filed. It will be available on the PEUC, the extension. So for those of you who have exhausted a regular claim, but you're going to be eligible for the extension eventually, it will be available for those as well. It does not come out of the balance of those claims. It is basically additional money. And I'm going to explain that when we get to another question. So let's go forward. This isn't my other question. Okay, if I don't get to that other question in my question base, I'll explain that later. Okay, if you receive 1099, should you apply for regular or for pandemic assistance? Ken went through that a little bit. There are some gig employment people that probably want to go through the regular process because they may be regular employees and entitled to a regular claim. If you are not entitled to a regular claim, you would be given or you would be considered for the pandemic unemployment assistance. Now, pandemic unemployment assistance is mostly based for the self-employed but you also have to meet COVID requirements on that claim. And most of us would meet those requirements. So if you are 1099, I cannot say in your individual situation right now which one. You would come to us and speak to us, and we would decide which way you go. I can tell you, for those of you who have received a zero balance award, where you have no wages in your base period, most likely you will be reaching out to us again when this becomes able to be filed, and that will be later in April. And we will most likely be able to qualify you under those types of claims. Those claims will, the pandemic unemployment assistance, or as we call it, PUA, those claims will have the additional $600, same as a regular claim. So the $600 is going to go on either type of claim for the period that the $600 pays. And that pays between the end of March and July. So once we get past July, you will not see the $600. It will stop. So just so you're aware, it only pays in that time period. Next question. Okay, this is the question I was waiting for. So the maximum weekly benefit in California does not go up. And that's really important for you to understand, and let me explain why. The maximum weekly benefit in California is still $450. The $600 is being paid in addition. So you could look at it and say, okay, so the maximum I can get a week is $1,050, and that answer is correct. But that is not the maximum weekly benefit. Why I say that is this. If you make $600 in earnings, you are not eligible for the $450. In essence, you're called excessive earnings, or you have made too much money to be eligible for that $450. You need to be eligible for at least $1 of that $450 to get the $600 for that week. So let's say you earn $650 and you're thinking, oh, well, it went up to $1050. I'm good. I'll get the difference. You won't. Because if you make $650, you made too much money to get the $450, and if you can't get $1 of the $450, you will not receive the $600 for that week. It's not like in an account like a UI claim where you can get that later on in another week in the future. You can only be paid that during the time frame that they allow us to pay that additional money. So for that 1 week, you would not get it. So someone had asked in the chat, well, what if I work 1 week and I don't work 1 week and I work 1 week and I don't work 1 week? Well, if you qualify for any portion of the $450 based on your earnings, then you'll get the $600 that week. If you are excessive in your earnings, more than $600 in 1 week, then you won't get that additional money. I will tell you, there are, that is as of today. Should there be a change, not saying there will, but should there be any change in how we determine disqualifying income, that could change what I'm telling you. But as of right now, and based on the law as of today, if you make more than $600, you would not be eligible for any portion of that $450, and therefore you would not get the $600. So you have to be eligible for the $450. So we have not raised the maximum weekly benefit in California. We have the same one. We are getting a federal stimulus on top of that. And Ken kind of mentioned in the past it was $25. They followed the same rules. You had to be eligible to receive that. If you are in any sort of disqualification, a false statement disqualification, a suitable work disqualification, if you're on any type of a disqualification, you're not eligible for the $450. Were that to happen during that time frame, you would not get the $600 during that time frame. So I just wanted to answer that question. Okay, if you are employed by your S Corp and also an officer of the corporation, you receive compensation for your services and not for being an officer. How do you list your employer? You would list, somebody asked that question in a little bit more detail when they sent it in. They asked for writers who are employees of their S Corps and also officers. They receive compensation for their writing and not for being officers. We have two options on how to list. We can list our payroll company, ADP, as our employer and their address, or should we list our own S Corp as our employer and our home address and ourselves as a supervisor? Are these both acceptable? It depends on your situation, and that's why this is one of those it depends on your situation questions. I will tell you though, if your payroll company is taking the responsibility of maintaining the payroll duties, including unemployment compensation, then they would be listed as the employer because they are going to answer to your unemployment claim and they're taking on the responsibility of your corporation. If, however, you are responsible for your corporation and they're just facilitating your payments for you, they are not responding or handling your unemployment concerns, then your S Corp would be the one, and you would list it just how they said, with their address, their home address, if that's what they're using for their S Corp, and themselves as their supervisor. So again, it depends on how you have set up your S Corporation. Next question. If someone is unemployed and has their own corporation, but also has other qualifying income, does their other income disqualify them from UI? It would depend on what their other income is. There are certain types of income that are disqualifying, as there are types of incomes that are not disqualifying. Again, you would want to file your claim, disclose whatever this other type of income is, and then we would determine if that would affect or would not affect your claim. One of the things I will tell you, though, is if you had very small amounts of earnings and you qualify for a regular UI claim at our very lowest payment amount, which is $45 a week, then you would get the $45 a week. And let's say that claim lasted the least amount of time, then you would get like maybe 12 weeks of that payment. Once we are filing the extensions, you would be able to get an extension, but your extension would be based on what your claim is based on. And you would have to exhaust everything before you even could be considered for other options. But again, it's not yours to worry about. You just need to come to us and tell us, I'm still unemployed, and it's up to us to figure out how, if there is a way to get you paid. And that's what we do. We will look for any kind of possibility and we go, oh, okay, so you did this, you exhausted this, okay, well then looks like you can have this, and if you're eligible for something, we will put you on that claim and we will help you get to your payment and get you paid. If your S Corp gets paid from a company out of state, do you report this as out of state income? This question, again, as with all of these questions, are more of a tax avenue, but we can tell you, if you are an employee of the S Corporation and the S Corp is a California company, most likely your S Corp would be reporting your income as in-state income, California income, and so you would be filing probably a regular claim. But again, that's one of the reasons why we want to talk to you if you think you might have an out-of-state income, because that person can look in all the other 50 states and see, is their income over there? Is your income not where you expect it to be? Because again, the law changed on that effective January 1st, and these base periods go back 18 months, and we're not 18 months past January 1st. So if you worked before January 1st, your wages may be somewhere other than where you expect, but after January 1st, they might be where you expect them to be. So again, this is why we want to talk to you. We want to make sure we're collecting every piece of wage of money that you're eligible for to put into your claim. So that's why. But normally, if this was reported in California, it would be a California-only claim. That looks like the end of a lot of these questions, but I am going to go through your chat if they leave the room open, and I will try to answer any question that hasn't been touched upon by the questions that you've asked. Some people ask some very outside of the box questions because it wasn't a typical thing that we would talk about in our presentation. So I want to get to those to see if I can answer those. So if they leave the room open, I will try to answer as many of the questions that I can.
Thank you so much. So on the chat portion, just so you know, we can download it and send you a document file. So regardless if it stays open, we'll be able to download all the questions and get them to you and Ken. And thank you so much.
If you want to send us those questions, I would be happy to go through and try. I know a lot of them are very specific and we can't answer those, so I'd let you know which ones we could not answer, but we could.
Hello? Hi, Brandy.
Hello, I'm sorry, I was on mute, I apologize. No, we'll be happy to answer anything that is not totally specific and send them back to you, if you get me a download.
Great, and then just two questions, I don't know if you're able to answer them that came up that I saw. One was for the disaster piece that you and Ken touched on. If folks originally put disaster, and they did that a month ago, should they go back and, can they go back and change it? Should they just leave as is or wait to be approached that it's not a disaster instead of when COVID was not an option?
Good question. Basically, it's going to depend on where they're at in filing. Most of the time, if people are putting disaster, we know that they're saying because COVID is a disaster and we get that. So they're working with that. We know that there is no formal disaster declared in regards to it. So we get where people are kind of accidentally answering, and we're being very flexible and lenient with that. So I would say, as of right now, they don't need to come back to us if their claim is still pending. We're going to look at that and we're going to handle it. But if we've already handled it and we've given them that zero balance, we don't show any wages available to file a regular claim. Right now, we can't file the pandemic disaster assistance claim. However, we will be able to, hopefully later on this month. Those people will need to contact us back once we have functionality to do so. And to know when to contact us, again, go to the website, look at the COVID site. They'll tell you, we are up and running and able to file this type of claim. They definitely want to contact us then and get back into the queue to be considered. But you need to wait until we have the functionality. Otherwise, we'll keep sending you a letter saying it's a zero balance claim because we can't. The only thing we have available today to do for you is a regular claim, and you may not be eligible for that.
Thank you. And then another common one that I saw was, what if people have joint W-2 and 1099 items?
I tried to cover that a little bit, but what's going to happen is if you have W-2, the first thing, there's an order and a hierarchy at which we have to file. So the first thing we have to look at is, are you eligible for an unemployment claim? And like I said with my example for the $42, if you are eligible, $45, if you're eligible for the smallest unemployment claim, then that takes precedence over the pandemic claim, which the average amount to be paid will be higher than I promised, $45. So it doesn't seem like that is in your favor, and I know that is frustrating. However, if you are eligible for anything on your W-2 wages and you can establish a UI claim, we have to establish the UI claim. If you were stuck with the $45 claim and you were in the stimulus period, you would get the additional $600, but you would be stuck in that until it exhausts. Then after we exhaust that, the next thing we get to look at is the extension. We have to exhaust that, and if that's exhausted and we're not in extended benefits, there's a whole hierarchy to it. You may eventually end up with some benefits on the pandemic disaster claim, but again, because they have the two types of income, if you're eligible for a UI claim at all, you must be paid on a UI claim.
Thank you, Brandy. Tom or Mike, anything either of you want to add?
Yeah.
I would just like to take the opportunity, Hugo, to once again thank the Fed, thank Ken and Brandy for all of their work, and recognize that these are tough times. We will all continue to work to get through this together, and I'd like to thank everyone for their time today, and hopefully we were able to answer many of your questions. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, and I'd just like to echo what Vice President Miller had said. Hugo, I want to thank you so much for putting this, for helping us put this together. Ken and Brandy, I can't thank you enough for your patience, your assistance, and I just hope everybody recognizes how much time and effort that you put into this, and it's just so greatly appreciated. So thank you very much.
And thank you for your leadership, Tom and Mike, and Ken, Brandy, on this and getting this to everyone. And special shout out, you can't see her, Scarlett Ying, with putting together on our team everything on the Zoom front. So thank you all. So just in terms of next steps, so I know a lot of people are asking, is this going to be online? Unfortunately, EDD, it has from the Public Affairs Department, does not allow us to record this, and didn't allow us to record this, which we want to honor, of course, in exchange for bringing this directly to you all. But we are committed to working with Ken and Brandy on next steps to make sure that everything that was produced and shared in this gets to you all, either through the new portal that's specifically in the entertainment industry that Ken mentioned, an FAQ guide with this in written format that we could potentially share. But we're committed to working with Ken and your unions to getting this information to you all, even in spite of it perhaps not being in the recorded fashion that some of you may like. Again, this is coming from them. We want to respect that. But anything else, Ken and Brandy, that you want to add in terms of next steps?
Yeah, I just want to share with you guys that we do have Facebook and Twitter. So as soon as we get information on the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program known as PUA, we'll certainly be leveraging our social media as well. I know that there are some downloads, and I believe it's the chat pod there. There's the form that Brandy referred to on how to report the residuals and royalties. There's also a link to a very helpful video that'll walk you through the process step by step when we're reporting this review online. And I think the reason why we don't get to have this recorded is because they refuse to pay Brandy and our royalties and residuals. So I think that's what it's all about. I'm not sure. Brandy, anything to add?
No, other than, yeah, it is true. We didn't get anything for that. But no, I just want to reiterate to everybody here, I know it is frustrating to try to get through to us, and I apologize so much, because I know when I try to call somebody, and it is so frustrating when I can't get through, and I've tried all day and night, and I get that frustration, but I want you to know every employee here is committed to getting people paid the fastest and the most completely we can get people paid. We are working, like I said, day and night. I can honestly say for myself, I have not had a day off since March 16th. I've worked every single day, and I will continue to do so until this ends, because we're committed to getting the people of California the money that they desperately need.
And I would also add to that, Brandy, that if someone has a UI Online account, that's really the fastest and easiest way to communicate with us. It's secure. You just log into your account, select the Contact Us tab. There's a whole bunch of drop-down menu options. Find the one that is closest to what you want to say to us. And then just, there's a free-form box where you can add text. Just ask your question that way. And, we do treat them in the order that they have been sent in to us. We do allow, some time for us to get back to you. But we do get back to you. And it is a secure way to do it. And it seems to be the fastest way to get through on the phone.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, and we will be in
Stay
touch.
safe and stay healthy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.